Laura. Welcome back to my channel. I really don't remember anything about this book. This video is going to be my March wrap-ups. These are all of the books that I read in March. First, let's talk statistics. I read 24 books in March. Of those 24 books, 5 were physical copies of books, 17 were ebooks, and there were 2 audiobooks. I usually don't listen to audiobooks, and I just started listening to audiobooks, and I really like it. I've already listened to 1 now. Of those 24 books, 20 were written by female and 1 was written by a man, and then the other 3 were written by 2 people. So it looks like 2 were written by a female writing duo, so we can count those under female, and 1 was written by a man and a woman together. 21 of those authors were white. 1 of those authors was a person of color. There was 1 that the duo, 1 was a person of color and 1 wasn't a person of color, so I just didn't include that. The average rating this month was 4.15, which is higher than the average rating the last couple of months. And I read a total of 7,374 pages. So I read the same number of books January, February, and March. Exact same number of books. But this is the least amount of pages I've read. Now that the statistics are out of the way, let's start talking about the books. Okay, so I have a couple of books in a row that are ebooks, and I think I'm gonna try and find them on my iPad so that I can show you the titles. So I read all 3 of the books in this Bergman Brothers series by Liese. I love her. She's an own author, so a lot of her characters have autism, and Liese is also on the spectrum. I loved these books. I loved them. I found them really fun, and they were all written really well, and all of the characters showed up in the other books, but I didn't feel like I was reading the same story 3 times. Like, they each had their independent struggles, and it was so good. So I read all 3 of those books. I also read, I'm kind of going out of order here just because I don't really feel like doing this in order. I also read The Nerd and the Neighbor by Lainey Davis. Oh my gosh. So that's what this cover looks like. I really liked it. I read a lot of, I don't think I'm going to go through each romance book that I read. You can just assume that I really liked it, and if I didn't, I'll tell you that I didn't. So I read Only When It's Us by Chloe Lies, Rivals by Jennifer Lane, which was a sports romance, which I really loved. It was also Ohio State versus Michigan, which was really fun. You Had Me at Hello by Mhairi McFarlane. That was really cute. And I'm pretty sure I've already read that book before. I keep doing this thing where I read a romance because it's free on Kindle Unlimited, and I had already read that romance because it was free on Kindle Unlimited. So I am having an issue with that. Always Only You, Ever After Always, both by Chloe Lies. I already talked about those. Under the Hood by Clements. This was like a really short book. It was like 138 pages or something like that. I said that like I'm not looking at it, and I know that it's 138 pages. Because it was 138 pages, there was a lot missing. Like, I didn't feel like I got the story, the full story. I feel like it was very choppy, and especially for that book, they skipped over like the whole middle. Like, they met, they started dating, they were like, we've been dating for a month, and I'm like, where did that month go? Where did that come from? And then they were mad at each other, and then they stopped talking for like a month, and I was like, y'all are separated more than you're together, so like, what? But it was okay. I think I gave it 3 stars. Text Me on Tuesday by Whitney. I read a couple of books by her this month. Text Me on Tuesday was really cute. It was like a professional romance, I gave it 3.5 stars just because it seemed very unlikely that a person would be that unlucky. It seemed like every single possible thing that could go wrong went wrong, and instead of it being annoying, it was cute. And I was kind of like, it doesn't matter how hot that girl is, at some point it just gets annoying. It's no longer cute that she's spilling things and falling all over herself. So like, no. Next I read Adult Versions Anonymous. I actually have a physical copy of that one. Adult Versions Anonymous. I got this because of, I was either TikTok or BookTube. I can't actually remember. I didn't dislike it, but I didn't love it. I don't know. I didn't love it, which was a bummer because I really wanted to love it, but it was okay. It was okay. It was cute. I probably am not gonna like give it to someone else to read just because it was kind of slow. It was kind of slow. So I read this book next. Next I read The Nerd and the Neighbor, which I already showed you. That was another really, really short one, but unlike, so it had some similarities with Under the Hood in that they skipped a lot of the middle part. Like all of a sudden they were like, and we've been together for 6 weeks, and you're like, But I liked The Nerd and the Neighbor a little better because I feel like they gave me more of the backstory of each of the characters. So like I knew what was happening, I knew what was going on. I feel like Under the Hood, they missed, like they just kept throwing things at me like towards the end. Like they were like, oh, by the way, this happened. I was like, when did that happen? Was I supposed to know that? Because I didn't. And The Nerd and the Neighbor did a better job of making sure the plot points that they were going to address at the end were brought up throughout the book, so it didn't feel so random. Next was Rock Me by Casey Hagan. That was fine. It was a 3. I don't know, a lot of the romance books I'm either like really liking or like really just kind of meh-ing. I don't tend to hate romance ever, but, well, that's not true. Sometimes I hate romance, but I haven't really hated any romances lately. It's just kind of like meh. But that was okay. The next book I read was The Love Square by Laura Jean Williams. I liked this. I gave it a 4. It wasn't bad. It was interesting. I definitely did a read along for TikTok for this one. It was interesting, but I feel like, you know, sometimes you're like, just talk to each other. I was like, just talk to each other. Like, what the heck? And it like made me, the main character, the one I was supposed to love, I don't think I loved him. I think he was just kind of rude. Like the main guy, I can't remember his name, but the main guy, I was just like, you're just kind of rude. I just kind of don't like you. But it was fine. I gave it a 4. The next thing I read was My Favorite Mistake by R.L. Kenderson. And I feel like I've read a lot of R.L. Kenderson books. I think some of the books I didn't like. I didn't like some of her books last month, but I really liked this one. It was like a friends to lovers story. And I really liked it. I gave it 4.5 stars. So after My Favorite Mistakes, we have The Off Limits Rule by Sarah Adams. I don't remember, I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember anything about that book. Sitting here right now, I remember 0. I'm assuming there's a person and they're off limits. But I don't remember why. I don't remember. I finished that book March 14th. It is April 7th, April 8th. I literally do not remember anything about that book. I could not tell you anything about that book. But I gave it 4.5 stars. So it was probably good. I'm so sorry. This is terrible. I have to edit this video as well tonight, so I'm just kind of like, no one watches these. Like, it's more for me than anything else, and random family members if they get to this point. So I'm kind of like, do you really want a very like long Goodreads style summary of this book? If I liked it enough to recommend it to you, I would recommend it to you. This might bite me in the butt, later when someone watches this video and they're like, Laura, come on. But I don't remember anything about that book. Hold on, let me look it up. The Off Limits Rule by Sarah Adams. I found rock bottom. It's here, moving in with my older brother. Oh, I remember this book. It was cute. She moved back with her son after breaking up with her boyfriend and being tired of her baby daddy having her on a string. So she moved back in with her brother, and it's her brother's best friend. He's the off limits. It was good though. I gave it 4.5 stars. I just couldn't remember what it was about. But it was good. I remember this book now. It was good. The next book I read was The Accidental Text by Becky Monson. And oh my goodness gracious, that book made me cry. You can see a lot of these were in my reading, and I'd like talk through all of those. But The Accidental Text was like heartbreaking and beautiful and wonderful. I'll link that video below. Like I'll put the link down there in case you wanted to see actually about this. But The Accidental Text was about a woman who had just lost her mom. She'd been texting her mother's number, like long thoughts, just what she would normally text her mom, but what she couldn't because her mom had died. And her dad, without telling her, had canceled the plan, and a man had been assigned that number. And they started talking, and he ends up losing his mother, and they are like kind of working through their losses together, and they meet and they become friends, and it was beautiful, and I cried, and I gave it 5 stars, and it was beautiful and wonderful, and I just cried and cried and cried. Next, I read It's My Party by Whitney Dean, another Whitney Dean. It was really cute. It was an arc, so I was like, so it was free. All of these books were free. I mean, not the physical copies, but like all of the ebooks. I usually only read ebooks on Kindle Unlimited, so. But It's My Party was really good. It was a hidden royal romance, so that was really cute. Next, we have This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousens. I read this book and I explained it to my mom, and my mom was like, I've read that book. And then I got to the end and I was like, I think I read this book too. I think I also read this book. But it was good. I liked it just as good the second time. It's 4.5 stars. That was really cute. It was about, it's about a woman who her whole life thinks she's unlucky and blames a man who was born on her birthday but a minute before her, because the first baby born in London in 1990, their parents were given a prize, and the boy who was born, they ended up winning the prize, and because his name was plastered everywhere, the mom was like, well, I can't name you what I wanted to name you. She wanted to name her Quinn. So she ends up meeting that boy who stole her luck, and they become friends and then fall in love, obviously. But it was really cute. Pretty sure I read it before. My mom had definitely read it before because she could explain to me what happened, but it was very cute. 4.5 stars. After that, I read The Deal because I saw a TikTok where it was like a TikTok trend, and they had used characters from the book. And I was like, I don't know this book. So I read it on Kindle, and I think I've read other books in this series. I hadn't read that one because I didn't remember any of that happening. And the plot point from the TikTok was like the big plot point. Like it was like the end. And I didn't remember that happening, but I remember the characters. So I think I've read other books in the series, but that was also good. I gave that 4.5 stars. Next, I read Spooning Leads to Forking by Kilby Blades. That was cute. I still don't really understand the title, but it was cute. It was like a suspensey kind of romance. I gave that one 4 stars. The next book that I listened to was The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. So I was quilting and I had to finish a quilt, so I decided I was going to start listening to books, and I was very nervous because I did not think I was going to like it, because it kind of pigeonholes you in a way when you listen to books, because especially, I'll talk about this a little bit more later, but especially in romance. But I picked up this book. I'd been wanting to read it. My mom had a credit, so I used the credit to get the book The Midnight Library, and it was so good. 5 stars. It was my book of the month. It was so good. I think the person who spoke it did a wonderful job. I didn't feel like my imagination had taken a hit because I had listened to it and not read it myself. And it was really good, and everyone should read that. I'm definitely going to buy a copy for my library because it was so good that I need a physical copy as well. The next book that I finished was Moments Like This by Ana Gomez and Kristopher Polaha. My mom recommended that book to me because Kristopher Polaha was the guy from Life Unexpected. The end was really good, but the beginning was slow for me. Like, I couldn't get past the beginning. I ended up putting the book down, waiting a couple days, and then picking it back up when I was like, okay, I want to get this book finished. I'm just gonna push through it. So it was okay. I gave it 3 stars. The next book I read is Shiver by Allie Reynolds. I got this in my Once Upon a Book Club box. And by my, I mean my mom's. There's a whole Once Upon a Book Club vlog up where I open all of the gifts. I will also link that one below. This was really good. I gave this 4.5 stars. This is not my usual cup of tea. I'm not a big suspense person. This was so good. I loved it. Suspensey and mystery, but there weren't like jump scares. Like, it was suspenseful, but it wasn't anxiety inducing, because like I don't like books that give me anxiety. They stress me out. But this was so interesting. I could not put it down. It was so good. The next book I read was 10 Rules of Faking It by Sophie Sullivan. This was really cute. I liked it. It was kind of forbidden-y romance. I liked that they went back and forth, because I feel like if they didn't go back and forth, I would have been like, girl, you need to calm yourself. Like, get over yourself. That guy obviously doesn't like you. But because we saw both perspectives, I knew why he was acting the way he was acting, and I was like, better come get your man. But it was very cute. It was really good for like stepping out of your comfort zone. Like, I thought it had a lot of good ideas for turning yourself into the person that you want to be, rather than the person that you feel trapped in. So this was really good. I gave this 4.5 stars. The next book that I listened to, so this is the second to last book. The next book that I listened to was My Favorite Halftime Stand by Christina Lauren. And y'all know I love Christina Lauren. I talk about them enough. I love Christina Lauren. However, because I listened to the book, I didn't enjoy it. And that's on me. I should not have listened to a romance. I kind of thought that beforehand too. Like, before I listened to it, I was like, maybe I shouldn't listen to romance. Romance doesn't seem like it would bode well to audiobooks. One, because I find it very uncomfy reading sexy scenes, and I usually just skip on past them. You can't do that really with an audiobook. But also because when you listen to someone's voice, you picture a person. At least I do. I'm speaking directly as me. When I listen to a voice, I picture a person in my head. And the description of the characters that I got from the book and the person that was reading the audiobook, they did not match up in my mind. And I feel like because of that, I had a hard time with the story, specifically like getting into it, because the characters in my head didn't match up with the voices I was hearing. So really, I think that that's on me. And I stupidly, right afterwards, I was like, oh my gosh, let me pick another romance. This one's free. And I mean, I shouldn't have done that. I ended up stopping halfway through and picking Anne of Green Gables instead, because I was like, I don't want to listen to this romance. I don't like it. I also really didn't like the girl's voice in the second book that I was listening to. But so yeah, I think if I would have read it, I would have enjoyed it more. But because I listened to it on an audiobook, I did myself dirty, and I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. The very last book that I read this month was C26 by D.D. Lorenzo. So this was another arc. It was about like a love story that surpasses time. Okay? Okay? So we start the book and we're in like the 1900s, like the early 1900s. I think they're on the Titanic, like the main couple. I think they're on the Titanic. And it wasn't it for me. It was a cute story, but I feel like they were so disjunct, and then a chapter to the end they were like, this is why it pertains to the couple, and you're like, huh? I don't think it hit quite like they intended for it to hit. It was still, I mean, it was still good. It was still a cute romance, but it was good. I gave it 4 stars, and I finished that book on March 31st. So that was the very last book I read. As I said, I did start listening to Anne of Green Gables before the month was up, but I didn't end up finishing it. So that'll be, I already have it down on my April list, something that I'm listening to. Those are all of the 24 books that I read this month or listened to. All in all, I think it was a good reading month. I have been having this issue where I've been picking things for like a mindless reason. Like I just want to get something read, so I pick something that I know will take me a couple of hours and I don't really have to pay attention to, but then I don't remember anything about it. So this month I might not read as many books because I'm trying to specifically pick, one, books that I own because I keep buying books and then not reading them. So I'm trying to, one, read books that I own, and 2, read books that might take me a little longer but that I will enjoy talking about in the long run. Those are all of the books that I read this month. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you liked it. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. You can subscribe. You can comment down below. You can follow me on Instagram or TikTok. You can do whatever in the heck you want. But thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next one. Bye.